want to tax people who are unemployed or businesses that are collapsing? If you want more revenue, everybody knows how you can get more revenue. Reboot your economy. Support those who are living in extreme poverty to come over this side and you get revenue. It's simple. We have today taxable adults of 20 million when it should be more. If you want more, you just support them. Eligible workforce in Nigeria is 150 million. Those who are employed are just about 75 million. So you have 40 million people that are not doing anything. Support them. So stop talking about revenue to GDP. Let's talk about how do you now get these people on this side. If the more China put people out of poverty, the more revenue they receive. To show you how bad it is and what the China is doing, if you go to our banks today, the total credit of all the banks, loans they've given out, is 15.5 trillion. Out of that, 4,000 companies or thereabout have taken 13.3. Call it about 3.3 billion each. The entire SMEs, MSMEs, 35 million, the entire loan to them is 500 billion naira, which is about 3% of 15,000 each. So they cannot contribute what their counterparts in China is contributing. In China, out of overall 30 trillion debts, MSMEs control 25% of it, which is 7.5 trillion. The consequence is that if you look at their tax revenue, they do not just produce 60% of GDP or 70% of unemployment, they also contribute 50% of the tax revenue. China funds its budget from tax revenue. 80% of their budget is funded by tax revenue. 80% is about 3 trillion, and MSME provides 50% of it, which is 1.5 trillion. In Nigeria, the opposite is the case, because these people are just living from hand to mouth. This year alone, about 10 million, half of this year, 10 million accounts became not operational again in Nigeria. Because you know why? People only open account now to